in Ayurveda, you can address the doshas, where you work specifically on restoring the dosha balance.
Okay.
But that can take a little longer time sometimes.
Okay.
So, for many people, it is important to alleviate the immediate issues because of the suffering associated.
Correct. Right.
So, you can work with the disease itself.
Okay.
Without losing sight of the larger context of all the variables, we can work with the disease to reduce the immediate suffering while continuously working with the doshas. So then you have the third level where you are working on the doshas and the roga meaning disease, simultaneously. One or more of these approaches are selected. And so if I'm working with the disease, there are herbs that directly work with the disease.
Okay.
But do they enable complete healing at a deeper level? No, if the others are not thought about, if all the other variables, we emphasize that you cannot do healing just taking into account the disease.
Then what is healing?
Healing.
Finally, you're healing the disease only, no?
No, you're healing the body. You're healing the body, mind, consciousness complex.
Okay. Tell us more. Namaste. Welcome to another edition of Sangam Talks. My guest today is Dr. Ramkumar, founder of Vaidyagrama. He's a Vaidya from Coimbatore, studied under what is called the Coimbatore model. So we'll talk about all of that as we go along in the conversation. But maybe before going to Dr. Ramkumar and starting our conversation, I have here with me a friend of mine. We recently met in Bangalore about 6 months back or so, got sort of very connected very well, and then we got talking about a whole lot of topics, including Ayurveda. And Kaushal is the founder of Tea Box, and he'll talk a little bit about himself. Then on my recommendation, after a lot of deliberation to and fro, we actually went to Vaidyagram. So let's hear from him what his healing journey at Dr. Ramkumar's Ayurveda hospital in Coimbatore has been. And I will also talk about my own healing journey. Kaushal, could you share your journey?
Rahul, firstly, thanks to you for recommending me a place such as Vaidyagrama. And, it was such a incredibly healing experience to experience 21 days in a place which I don't think I would strictly describe as only a physically healing space. I would describe it more of a overall well-being and healing space. So just a bit of background about myself. I run a startup called Dewan. I've been at it for about 12 plus years. And in the last 12 to 15 years of building a startup, I've not had the chance to really take care of my overall well-being. So I would say I've abused my body over the last 30, 40 years. And I really felt the need that until unless I do something very, very drastically, I was going towards a downturn. And thankfully, I was introduced by you to a place called Vaidyagrama. 21 days, I had the opportunity to go there for 21 days and do a intense Panchakarma, which is a very deep healing process. The entire experience of 21 days was not easy, but when I look back at my 21 days at Vaidyagrama, I have seen significant improvement in my overall healing. So I went there for a very specific cause, which was eczema. Eczema was something I was suffering from for the last few years. And I felt that it was really, really increasing. I have visited innumerable doctors, consult skin doctors, dermatologists in Bangalore, in different places in India. And every single time I was provided either an ointment or some medication which would temporarily heal the eczema or temporarily delay the eczema process or increase of eczema, but it was not solving it permanently. And I knew that if I didn't solve it from the root, it would really, really increase and probably lead to a much worse situation. So when I went to Vaidyagrama, the way they looked at my issue was not just from a skin perspective, but was from an overall wellness and overall physical, mental, I would say to a certain extent, 100% nutritional perspective as well. So they approached this problem by looking at not the skin, by looking at issues from a gut, and advised me something called Panchakarma, which is a very deep cleansing process. And in terms of Panchakarma, they advised me something called Sneha Panam, which was a very deep ghee kind of a process in which I had to take medicated ghee for an elongated period of days and then kind of purge it out. I can only say that during the entire process, not only I felt that the skin issues got rectified, but when I came out after the 21 days, after spending 21 days at Vaidyagrama, I had a lot of other healing effects, which I honestly did not anticipate. My eye power decreased by zero point 0.5, my appetite increased significantly, my sleep became much more deeper, my overall energy and vitality in the body increased, and eczema, the issue for which I went to Vaidyagrama, decreased by 70%. Uh, when started reflecting a lot more on my experience there, I realized that it was not just one, the medication and the overall healing was not just for eczema, but for the overall well being for the body. And once the body is in a process to heal itself, it would not just heal my eczema, it did not just heal my eczema, but heal a lot of other areas of my body, which I honestly did not anticipate.
Oh,
And 21 days is a very long time there, but I
and,
was
and I know it gets very hard over there. 21 days with rice water, kanji, and boiled green gram and all of that. We'll talk about that with Dr. Ramkumar. Just tell me, is there a significant improvement in your eczema on the skin? I mean, in percentage terms,
yes, I would say about 65 to 70%. My eczema has
till in
reduced.
your post Panchakarma medicine period, 3 months.
Yes, so 65 to 70% of my eczema has reduced. And given the medications are being continued, I'm continuing to experience a
Get better.
slight decrease as well.
Yeah. And no reversal of disease?
No, no reversal of disease. And
Do you think this is just you making up things? I mean, or is there placebo effect?
no, no. I mean, eczema is something you can feel. I mean, I'll show you. I'll show you in the skin.
Yeah, you will show us. We will, for the audience, we'll put up the before and after pictures, I guess.
100%. I mean, there's no need for me to make up anything, but just the sheer experience of having less eczema on your body and the better effects of, having a good lifestyle because of the reduction of eczema is such a huge benefit that it's very hard for me to express. Eczema is kind of a lifestyle disease or autoimmune disease, very hard to cure. And I have been suffering for the last 4 or 5 years because of this.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Kaushal.
Rahul, for having me, and thanks to Dr. Ramkumar for
Ramkumar.
creating something like Vaidyagrama, for which we had the kind of real experience, real benefit of experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste.
So, Dr. Ramkumar, so before I go to, my set of disease as well and how I benefited from being at Vaidyagram, but tell me, he's talking about eczema and autoimmune disease. Now, autoimmune is when the immune system is itself sort of fighting back, and instead of curing becomes the cause of the disease. Something in layman terms, that's how I understand. Why do they happen? Let's start from there only. What is autoimmune disease? And then we'll come to how does Ayurveda cure what modern science says is incurable.
Well, firstly, these are all new terms.
Okay.
In Ayurveda, we don't understand any of these terms. All that we say is there is an internal environment
Okay.
which can be resistant to a disease process or which can enable a disease process to happen. If that internal environment is not strong enough, the disease process aggravates, whether it's at the cellular level or tissue level or organ level, depending on the extent of aggravation, different diseases are seen. So in Ayurveda, we are constantly trying to see how to improve the quality of the internal environment.
Is that when you say internal environment, you mean the immune system or
Just the space. It's just like you have a room which is a space. You keep the room clean, you feel better, and things work out much better.
Sure.
If the room is not clean, then your energy levels go down. The chances for different insects and reptiles coming in is much higher. The quality of living in that room reduces considerably. It is the same room that exists in this body also. It is a room filled with many cells, many tissues, many channels. All of this is happening in a room. Now, if that whole system is kept reasonably healthy, then the chances for any external impact adversely is reduced considerably. We are able to maintain our health in a good environment. That is why we use the word sukha.
Okay.
Sukha means good space. Commonly we translate it as happiness. It is happiness. If it is good space, it is health, it is happiness.
Okay.
If there is no health, there is no happiness. If there is no good space, there is no health and happiness. So all diseases, whether we talk about autoimmune or we talk about cancer or we talk about lifestyle disorders like diabetes and hypertension, or the entire range of diseases are dependent on how well we are able to look after this internal environment on a day-to-day basis. And how do you do it? Through your diet and through your lifestyle. These are the two primary ways in which you maintain or don't maintain the quality of the internal environment.
So you eat healthy food and I don't know, you live a healthy lifestyle, which means you do, I don't know, do some running, do some exercises, but that doesn't cause reduction of disease or prevention of disease only.
So the problem here is how you define healthy food. Now, when we say healthy food in Ayurveda, there are multiple factors that contribute to it. The food is local, the food is seasonal, food is prepared and eaten in a good state of mind. The quality of food, the combination of the food, the processing of the food, and most importantly, the quantity that is consumed and the time at which it is consumed. This is what is healthy. It is not just, I eat high protein diet or I eat a high vitamin mineral diet. That is such a small part of this concept of healthy food. We get caught in that. And similarly with lifestyle also. Just by running for 1 hour every day or doing exercise for 1 hour every day is not sufficient. It is how I conduct myself from morning till evening in terms of my movement, in terms of the stress levels on my mind, in terms of the rest. Today the rest factor is considerably ignored by many of us.
Yeah.
Rest is required for recovery and nourishment. And the less I rest, the more I move into this disease model, because the internal environment becomes more and more stressed when there is no rest.
So more prone to disease?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. So that is why we use the word balance all the time. Achieve a balance in everything you do and be appropriate to your context. What you do at the age of 20, you cannot do at the age of 40, you cannot do at the age of 60. What you do in the summer months, you cannot do in the rainy season or in the winter months. What you do in the southern part of India cannot be done in the northern part of India, cannot be done in Europe or in America. Everything is so unique. Every individual is unique, every context is unique.
What do you mean every individual is unique? Do we have proclivities? Do we have leanings, vulnerabilities also for disease? And how do they happen?
So, because it's very difficult to have a perfect environment. You create a good environment, but that good environment it's not a perfect environment, because when we are born itself, we are born with certain tendencies.
Okay.
So,
Which means what?
like genetic tendencies. In the theory, in our theory, it would be the karma theory. But there are tendencies that every one of us have. Some of us are more inclined to sweet food. Some of us are more inclined to sleeping more. These inclinations are always going to be there. The question is, how do I harness my mind? How do I gain reasonable control over my mind so that I don't go overboard with these tendencies, which is what typically happens to most of us. We engage in excesses, and the excesses are a huge cause of a lot of the health issues we start facing over a period of time.
These tendencies, are you also talking about the Vata, Pitta, Kapha tendencies that people have? And if yes, then what are they? And I mean, is there a imbalance in them? What is Prakriti? What is Vikriti? If you can explain some of this. And maybe before you go there, you said that it's all the internal system, and disease is just terms for you. So you have, I mean, there is no classification or no categories of diseases, for somebody who's coming with arthritis or with diabetes, you don't have a difference in the line of medication for such people, or is it that are you not treating the disease at all?
So there is a difference in the line of medication based on the individual who has the problem. So there are multiple factors. We have to remember that, like I said earlier, we are all unique. And there are multiple factors that impact every one of us, whether it is age, gender, digestive capacity, natural inclinations or tendencies, place where we stay, the climate, the kind of food availability, the stress factor on the mind, our normal habits. There's so many factors that impact each of us. So this is why no two individuals can be exactly alike.
So you mean that the treatment will also not be?
So the treatment, that's why two people having the same condition will get entirely different treatments and medicines based on the evaluation of all these factors.
Okay.
And that is when the treatment becomes really customized and specific to the person.
So in that sense, Ayurveda is not drug to a disease. That whole theory does not apply to Ayurveda.
So it applies. There is in Ayurveda we have three levels of working with a person when one has a disease. So at the first level we are trying to work with the doshas. Now we call it Vata, Pitta, Kapha, which are basically the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space, which is a very loose translation of the Sanskrit word.
Yeah.
But just for easy comprehension.
Yeah.
And that worldview talks about everything in this universe, everything and every person in the universe being composed of different proportions of these 5 elements.
Okay.
And so when these 5 elements go out of their natural balance in each of us, that is when we start calling them doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, depending on which of the elements are increased or decreased.
Are they all in the same proportion in everybody? No.
Individual balance. That's why I said every one of us have a unique balance of these 5 elements.
Yeah.
And when they go out of that balance, then we are starting to see the starting process of disease.
I would be born with a certain combination of the, the 5 elements, and then that would, if I maintain that balance, it would keep me in a state of health. If they go out of balance, I would be diseased.
Yes.
Okay.
I would be diseased if it goes too much out of balance.
Too much out of, okay.
Otherwise, it would be the starting point of disease.
Fine.
So, we are trying to constantly maintain this balance or come back to this balance, and that is normally done through our daily activity, diet and lifestyle.
Got it.
When I say lifestyle, now one important factor that is generally not given much consideration is the elimination process.
Okay.
We are always talking about nourishment and nutrition. But we also need to talk about elimination. Because if the elimination is an important part of the metabolic process, when elimination happens well, that is when the nourishment happens well.
Okay.
If elimination happens too much, then it becomes depleting.
Okay.
If nourishment happens too much, then it becomes an excess and that becomes the lifestyle problem. So we have to maintain this balance between cleansing and nourishment on a daily basis in our lives.
Okay.
And that is what enables us to keep this environment resilient and minimize the tendency to become imbalanced in terms of the 5 elements.
Okay.
So when we talk about the treatment side, in Ayurveda you can address the doshas, where you work specifically on restoring the dosha balance.
Okay.
But that can take a little longer time sometimes.
Okay.
So for many people, it is important to alleviate the immediate issues because of the suffering associated.
Correct. Right.
So you can work with the disease itself.
Okay.
Without losing sight of the larger context of all the variables, we can work with the disease to reduce the immediate suffering while continuously working with the doshas. So then you have the third level where you are working on the doshas and the roga meaning disease, simultaneously.
Okay.
So depending on the need of the situation, need of the patient as assessed by the Vaidya. One or more of these approaches are selected. And so if I'm working with the disease, there are herbs that directly work with the disease.
Okay.
But do they enable complete healing at a deeper level? No, if the others are not thought about, if all the other variables are not thought about.
So then it is simply herbal medicine.
Symptom pacification.
Symptom pacification. So just for the audience to, and maybe we'll come back and ask you to build the thread here. I had gone to Vaidyagrama because 2.5 years back, I had developed massive kidney stones. I had 14 kidney stones. And there was one day sudden pain. I thought I would die. It was my last day. It was so painful. I've never experienced that much pain. And I remember talking to Dr. Harikumar he's a Vaidya in Dr. Ramkumar's hospital. And I asked him that, okay, I've been advised to, take it out by operation. He actually said that we would recommend if it's stuck in the canal, whatever, I forget the name, then you must take it out. At the same time, he said, look, I asked him about, some leaves that I was taking, juice of leaves to eliminate that. So I remember him telling me that herbal medicine will help eliminate it, sure, but it will not cure your tendency to form kidney stones again. So I'm guessing you're alluding to something very similar.
Exactly. Absolutely. That is what is so important. One is addressing the issue, but two is trying to ensure that this issue does not recur. And three is, while doing these two, ensuring that another issue does not crop up. A side effect, for example.
Oh, okay.
I address the kidney, but I find that my digestion has become weaker due to the medication that I took to address the kidney.
I mean, in case of, what would allopathy say? What did they tell me? First, they said, we'll pull out all the laparoscopy or something it's called to pull out all the kidney stones. I was very scared. They would put catheter inside through the penis and then extract all the stones out, and there were a lot of them. Then I'd heard people say that, firstly, of course, there's bleeding, and then, there's brazing of the whole tract, and so then you're uncomfortable for many days after that. I honestly didn't want to go down that path, so I avoid all forms of medication.
I was basically trying to say that you can address symptoms in the context of all the way. We reiterate, we emphasize that you cannot do healing just taking into account the disease.
Then what is healing?
Healing,
Finally, you're healing the disease only, no?
no, you're healing the body. You're healing the body, mind, consciousness complex.
Okay, tell us more.
So in Ayurveda, we are very clear that there is a body, there is a mind, and there is somebody living in this body. The body is a vehicle
Okay.
that is carrying the person to the destination, wherever one wants to go.
So we are not this body.
We are not this body, which is the basis of all our Indian thought processes.
It reminds me, and before I interrupt you once again here, Preeti Zinta was just went to Mahakumbh, and I saw one tweet. I was talking to you about this. She says we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. I thought was very beautifully put.
Yes.
Indic philosophy.
Absolutely. So we are ensuring that this body mind is functioning well enough to ensure a smooth journey. This is what is the basis of Ayurveda. And towards that, we do whatever is required in terms of daily maintenance, seasonal maintenance, annual maintenance, whatever is required. And I think this is, anybody who desires health will go through this process, whether you call it Ayurveda or not. Daily, seasonal, annual, maybe once in 5 years maintenance is something that is a part of life.
Sure. You do maintenance of your cars also?
Machines, everything you do it. Yeah.
So just coming back, you were saying that we are not the biochemical body. We are the being in the body. So you are curing the being.
So when we talk of healing, we are talking about healing at 3 levels. One is the body. And that is why we are talking about the diet, the lifestyle, the cleansing, the nourishing, the treatments, the herbs. All of this is at the level of the body primarily. It affects the mind also, but primarily the body. Then we are talking about the mind. Unless the mind is strong enough, one is not able to take good care of the body. So the willpower, the conviction, the determination, all of this needs to be built sufficiently. It can happen through counseling, it can happen through building wisdom, it can happen through yoga practices, it can meditation.
Ayurveda help? How does Ayurveda heal the mind?
Herbs are also, that's why I said, while the medicines primarily work on the body, or the food primarily works on the body, they also work on the mind. But along with that, Ayurveda is giving this recommendation also, that the mind has to put in the effort. We have to put in the effort to build the knowledge.
Outside of Ayurveda, which means other yogic practices
and
or
through
whatever.
Ayurveda also, to know more about ourselves. Now, if I am paying attention to this body-mind complex every day, then I will naturally start eating what is right. I will naturally start sleeping when I need to sleep. So, for that, the mind has to play the role.
Yes.
So, it is through Ayurveda also you can build this knowledge.
Sure. Okay.
You can also do it through yoga. So, as one of our teachers used to put it, Ayurveda is for the body and yoga is for the mind. Where Ayurveda ends, yoga begins. But both work on body and mind.
In tandem.
In tandem. So you
3
build.
levels you were saying.
And then the third level is working with the karma.
Okay.
The karma factor is the cause and effect theory. The cause can be at a previous time in this life, or as per the Indian knowledge systems, the cause can be a continuum across several previous lifetimes. But let us even just take the cause going back 30 years in this life. If I am 50 years today and, at the age of whatever I did at the age of 10 or 20, will still have a residual impact on me at some point of time. Now, if I take good care of my body and mind, that residual impact will be very less. But if I don't, this residual impact will be seen in its entirety.
Will exaggerate or something.
So we have to become aware of it, that whatever I do today has an impact tomorrow. So when I look back, I cannot change what I did, but I can improve what I do today to minimize that impact. So
In
that is
this
the
life.
karma factor in this life.
in this
Yes.
body,
Yes.
through this body.
Yes.
Some would call this pseudoscientific.
See, again, that is jargon. Whether we call it science, whether we call it pseudo, whether we call it shastra. I mean, we can get into long conversations about it, but ultimately, what works for me, I have to ensure that today is good for me
Yeah.
and tomorrow is better for me. What I did yesterday, I cannot change or change completely, but
Yeah.
I have full control over what I do today and the benefit I get from it tomorrow. We can give it any term we want,
Yeah.
but today I have to eat right, sleep right, exercise right, think right, minimize stress in my life,
That is for general maintenance.
even for disease management. Well, there is a WhatsApp University quote also,
Okay.
which says the road to heaven
Yeah.
is like hell,
Okay.
and the road to hell is like heaven.
Okay. What does that mean? What?
So, if you want to maintain your health, there is a
The road-
big effort that you need to put in, which can sometimes be painful.
Yeah. So road to heaven is
It's like hell.
suffering and painful.
Initially, to begin with, till you start.
Build momentum, make
yeah.
it part of your habit
Yeah.
structure and all of that.
But the road to hell is like heaven. You indulge your senses, do whatever you
Fine,
want.
but what if disease happens? I mean, just by living a good lifestyle. So, for example, if I change my lifestyle, which is what all doctors say, for example, that now you will have to reduce palak for managing kidney
Right.
stones. If I do that, firstly they keep cutting out. Ab ye bhi kaat do, cut this out. Now cut this out. Still kidney stones happen. It's endless sometimes, right?
So that is why again in
So I would
Ayurveda,
have to go through some cure, right? Some treatment.
you have to.
I
yes.
can't just keep
Yes.
managing the
yes.
disease.
But along with that, you have to manage. Now, when you come to Vaidyagrama for treatment, the healing begins when you come back. There, primarily the cleansing, some level of correction, a little bit of nourishment. This is what is happening. But the real healing happens when you leave Vaidyagrama, get back into your day-to-day life, and bring in essential changes. Nobody is telling that people should live like a saint, but recognizing key factors that are contributing to the disease in me, which is very different from you,
Yeah.
and either eliminating or minimizing or reducing the frequency with which I consume it.
Yeah.
That awareness, that is why the mind is so important.
Right.
Building that awareness and working on that awareness. So Ayurveda is never telling us that anything is always bad or that something is always good. Both these extremes Ayurveda avoids. Eat based on your context today. This is the simple message from Ayurveda. Do your activity based on your context today. If you are unwell, don't exercise. If the first suggestion that Ayurveda gives whenever we fall sick, the first suggestion is take rest.
Of course.
Which your grandmother also says, everybody says. But today most of us want to continue with our activity when we are unwell. When you take rest, then there is a natural healing process that happens within you.
Yeah. So, how does healing happen when you are a diseased body? So, being at Vaidyagrama or any hospital, what is the Panchakarma process? Kaushal talked about Snehapanam. Can you talk about that? What is this elimination?
So basically, first there's an evaluation process to understand you and
Which
your
is the
condition.
Nadi Pariksha.
Different methods are there. You can look at the tongue, you can look at, there are some, look at the eyes,
Right.
ask questions. Today, where required, laboratory reports are also looked at to ensure that, you do a proper evaluation. And that evaluation continues on a daily basis, like in any medical system. When you are going through a treatment process, you try to do the evaluation on a daily basis. And then based on that evaluation, the first correction starts at the digestion level. Because in Ayurveda, a lot of issues primarily start at the digestion. If the digestion is improved, the metabolism is improved, that by itself can significantly contribute to the healing process.
Okay.
So that is where the first process begins. Now, for those of us who are willing to take that responsibility of looking after ourselves, we can start this process at home.
Okay.
We don't need to be in a hospital setting. It is because we are unable to take that responsibility that we move into a hospital setting where, under controlled conditions, we go through this process.
Right.
So, once we know that the digestion is a little better, then comes the point where we have to evaluate whether the cleansing is required or not. Because some of us, the problem is so chronic or so advanced that perhaps a deep cleansing is required of the system.
Okay.
For others, it may not be so advanced where you can manage even without the cleansing.
Okay.
However, for either group, whether you do cleansing, intense cleansing or mild cleansing, it has to be followed always by nourishment, which happens either at the hospital or when you go back home. So, digestion is better. Now, cleansing is done. To prepare for the cleansing, one needs to work towards bringing everything into the central gut,
Okay.
from where the alimentary canal, from where it can be eliminated. Whatever toxins or impurities.
So what are these toxins?
We can call it ama. We can call it ama dosha. There are different
What is this?
words.
Are they real biochemical toxins, leftovers from food, visible under a microscope, or is this some form of energy, or what? Both?
So I have not seen the microscope, so I have no idea. But I think these are very tangible because when we, examine what comes out, that gives us a lot of information about how well the cleansing has happened or not.
Got it.
So we are seeing tangible substances coming out in an intense cleansing process.
Via the stool, for example.
Via the stool or when we vomit, there is something tangible that is coming out. So we are actually looking at it.
Got it.
And that, it's a substance. So you can call it a chemical, you can call it anything. That is it is the accumulated toxins over a period of time that is being shaken. So this is why once the digestion is reasonably corrected, the preparation for elimination is such an important process.
Okay.
Because if we don't draw this from all parts of the body into the alimentary canal, it will be a very superficial cleansing that happens.
Okay.
And this process of preparation can take anywhere from 3 days to 5 days to 10 days, sometimes 20 days. It depends on the nature of the toxins and the patient also. Now, to do this, we also need to consider the mind, because for some patients, the mind may not be strong enough to go through this process. So the Vaidya is continuously evaluating both the body and the mind on a daily basis to understand to what level he should continue the preparation, when it should be stopped, etc. Once the Vaidya is convinced that there is a case now for elimination, then the process is done. Whatever is chosen, whether it is a purgation or an enema or whatever is the process, that is done, followed by gradual rebuilding. Because when there's an intense cleansing process, there will be some depletion also in the system.
Sure. Okay.
And at that point, the body is very vulnerable, very tender. It might requires very careful diet and activity to rebuild and then nourish. Now, this entire process is done either through Panchakarma or otherwise, like I said earlier. It can be done without going through the intensity of this process also.
Yeah. So, when toxins are eliminated, how does disease cure happen? For example, in my own case, firstly, without any, I think I didn't go through any operation, laparoscopic or whatever. I could feel through pain and through general elimination some stones going away, but I was also told that they will tend to dissolve, and this has not happened. There's no recurrence in 2.5 years, and of course through the 21 days like Kaushal went through, my 30-year-old pain in the groin, which would go in the abdomen, in the scrotum, that, I'd been through, I don't know how many types of things, medications, all sorts of things 20 years back, 25 years back. Nothing had helped. I'd basically learned to live with the pain. And that is where my endurance piece comes in. That has improved, I would think 60-70%. It still persists, and I'm going for another session at Vaidyagrama now. Hopefully it will be eliminated. But just that reduction and pain management has really, really helped me. So what happened in that cleansing that pain went down? So I asked Dr. Hari Kumar that, what are you not treating the pain? He said, no, I'm not doing anything with that. So help me understand what.
He strengthened the environment. He has strengthened the environment where the disease causing factor.
The pain causing factor.
The pain causing
There's no
factor.
disease,
Yeah.
it's
So
just pain.
the pain causing factor, whatever he has understood,
Yeah.
he has ensured that pain causing factor cannot become active because the environment has become more resilient.
Okay.
This is why in Ayurveda we are again talking about this internal environment. If the internal environment, see, you and I are both exposed to similar microbes or viruses.
Yes.
I fall sick, but you don't fall sick.
COVID. Let's talk about
Example.
that, yeah.
How many of us in one room were exposed to it? Many of us got it, some of us did not get it.
So the virus is not important for you?
Virus is important to a very small extent. What is more important is, is the environment creating a conducive space for the virus to become active? Or is the environment just allowing the virus to move through it and move out?
So is that the view? That
That's
if the
the view.
system is
Yes.
clear, even if I ingest the virus, it will eliminate.
Yes.
And that is why you're saying
that is the reality.
I actually talked to doctors and they said, no, if you get the virus, you will fall ill. And 2 minutes later, they were contradicting themselves. If your immunity is strong, the virus does not.
So I didn't use the word immunity deliberately.
Yeah.
So that is what the internal environment is about.
Yeah, okay.
And it is a fact. I mean, in India, how many homes could actually do the social distancing and masking and
also they've then told that masks don't help because the microbe is so small.
So we are not saying anything is wrong, but we are saying that the focus should be on the internal environment. The more we focus on creating resilience, the less the chances for any disease activating factor, any disease causing factor to become active.
So COVID itself is not the problem. It's the individual responding to the COVID virus, allowing it to grow.
So COVID is a problem to the extent that there was a pandemic.
Yeah.
There was this period in time when the chances to fall sick was much higher.
Why?
Because of the whole environment that was we can talk about environmental pollution, we can talk about diet, bad lifestyle, whatever, tinkering with nature,
The number of viruses is very high. Is that I don't know what is a pandemic? Really what I'm asking.
It created, the pandemic was a period in time and space when everybody was more vulnerable than normal. Vulnerability was definitely higher.
And it could be for environmental factors.
Yes.
Maybe even at
factors.
sort of metaphysical level.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so the person responding who's getting a lung disease or cough, phlegm, whatever is the infection in the lungs, you would not treat the lung infection with whatever medication. You would bring the doshas, for example, in balance.
And if required, alleviate the symptoms, like I said earlier.
So alleviate the symptoms?
If required.
Okay, got it.
You can work directly and you can work at the causative level. Both are definitely a part of the Ayurveda healing plan.
So there are, two different sets of worldviews, if you like. One is treating the body as a random body happening, which is a biochemical body. There is no being inside. This is it. This is the life. It dies. Something happens. consciousness happens because of the mind, while you're saying consciousness is already there and the body is basically just an accumulation, a vehicle like you
Right.
used. Two different worldviews. We are at this point trying to measure the effectiveness of Ayurveda by applying the systems of knowledge, the epistemology of, I don't know, science-based medicine. Give this medicine, does this lead to this effect? Is that fair?
So yeah, so now research is a big topic, and we talk about evidence-based medicine. We talk about Ayurveda-based evidence. We debate what are the right parameters to study the effect of Ayurveda. There's a lot of talk or discussion on all these lines. But the basic question is the patient being benefited? I think before we even go into how it works, we have to first say, is it working?
Yeah.
And create the evidence to show that it is working. Whatever parameter is immaterial, because
What if they say placebo worked?
but so that is where you look at numbers. Suppose you can show large numbers,
Of people, then everybody is going through placebo changes, then okay, maybe.
then it becomes even Western medicine or any medicine is having placebo effect. We are not discounting the placebo effect, but suppose we are able to create a documentation process, not even a research process, a documentation process, where tens of thousands of patients across different Ayurveda practitioners, different Ayurveda institutions are documented on the same set of parameters. And the results are analyzed. And it is showing that there is benefit. I think that itself would be the first step, a good first step, to show that it is working. The patient is benefited. See, ultimately it is about we are doing everything, whether it is Western medicine, whether it's Ayurveda, whether it's Chinese medicine, everybody wants to ensure the patient is benefited. I don't think there is any dispute on that.
Absolutely.
So, first we have to document and show that it is working. Now, how it works, when we start studying that, is where the study of the parameters needs to be discussed. Because whether the current parameters are sufficient to understand how it works, or do we need to extend the parameters, is double blind a good way of studying, because you are discounting the doctor patient connect. There are so many factors that need to be discussed in depth, which I think a roundtable discussion of the experts should bring out
So the
the
knowledge
right set of
systems you're
parameters.
saying, studying whether the knowledge system, why it works and all of that is a second problem. But first, simply just research and document whether it is working or no. Just document that beyond anybody's doubt that it works.
Yes.
Why it works, let's talk about that
Yes.
separately.
Like Kaushal said, I can show the before and after of my eczema.
Yeah.
Simple. It is working.
Yeah.
Why it worked, how it worked, is it because of the medicine, is it because of the diet, is it because of my lifestyle, is it because... All that can be discussed later.
Right. Some people accuse, especially in the people who go against Ayurveda, will accuse it of using, I don't know, even steroids in medicine or heavy metals
But
and all of that.
in every system, there are good practices and unethical practices.
Correct.
Good practitioners and unethical practitioners. In every system, it is there.
That is
So,
world over.
a small unethical
Even,
group...
forget unethical, but even inefficient.
Inefficient,
Even in my case,
yes.
my father's case, one left hand does not know what right hand is doing. All the time we face this in modern medicine and hospitals.
Absolutely. So the small group of inefficient or unethical practitioners cannot be taken to represent a system. A system cannot be faulted because of the practitioners.
Yeah.
I think that is there, and that will continue to be there in every system, in every profession across the world.
Right.
I don't think that they should be ever
Fair point.
be discussed, actually.
Sure, fair point. Just once again, sort of stepping back into the same question. So there is, for instance, they keep saying that Indians have a very high percentage, 80-85% people in India have fatty liver, is what is being said right now. And that is one side. The other is that, we are D3 is, 80-85% or 70% Indians don't have high enough D3 because we don't eat meat, we have less B12, and this is a reason for a lot of disease. So, if viruses are not so important and maybe, one part of it, is that the same with micronutrients and
Again,
protein for example, is
yeah.
a big industry right now. Like, we're not eating enough protein.
Yeah. So again, we must look at how our diet and lifestyle have changed over 50, 60, 70 years, and maybe even more. People very often point to how, our 3 generations back, they were eating a particular food, and they were healthy, so why can't we eat the same food?
Okay.
But like for example, eating rich food in Punjab, for example, the parathas and the from your place, the saag and the parathas and the lassis and everything, but their lifestyle was a very physical lifestyle,
Yeah.
working in the fields and everything, so they were actually able to digest it.
Process, yeah.
Now, from those days to today, where the same food is eaten because they eat it, but the lifestyle has changed, and I'm, traveling in car, sitting in front of televisions, doing very little physical activity, this diet is definitely going to hurt me adversely.
Okay.
So, diet and lifestyle cannot go in 2 different directions. They have to go parallelly. My lifestyle has to be a factor determining my diet. Somebody who's working in the fields might be able to eat 5 parathas. I, sitting in this room, should eat only 1 paratha. Now, if that understanding is not there, naturally over a period of time, my system cannot take the kind of food that we are eating, and consequently I develop all these health issues. I develop, since the metabolism is not happening, and since I'm not getting the nutrition from what I eat, I will start becoming deficient.
Sure.
Even if I'm eating the healthiest food, if I don't digest it, I'm not going to get any of the nutrition from the food.
D3 and B12 and
Whatever, anything. If my diet and lifestyle are not of the, complementing each other, I am going to become deficient. Some of my systems are going to be overburdened. And so I might need to take temporary measures to rebuild the micronutrition if I'm not able to quickly change my diet and lifestyle.
So you think such large proportions of Indians would be in this state? Or is there more to it? I mean, is there a natural tendency that's our natural being? For example, the reason I'm harping on this point is that there is some Dr. Eric Berg, if I'm not wrong, and others also. There is new evidence coming up that the parameter set for, say, cholesterol or for blood pressure levels. Now, that is just a random thing that has been set without any individual changes of what is right for this person. It's been taken like a global standard. Not even country standards have been ignored. Could that also be?
So that's something that only a scientist can say. If I say it is not going to be of value. So I would prefer not to say it.
Okay, wonderful. We have another session tomorrow, another recording tomorrow with Dr. Svoboda this time also. Hopefully we'll continue this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed the conversation. Hope you enjoyed this conversation, and hope some of the misgivings on Ayurveda spread by a lot of really nasty doctors out there are cleared, that you can't use 2 different systems of knowledge and apply those methods to evaluate this. As Dr. Ramkumar said, the primary thing you have to look at is whether it is working or no for the individual. If it is, it works. Why it works, let's figure that out. That would be an honest way of looking at a system of medicine. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Namaste.